Today we are going to compare two of the biggest tech stores, Mediamarkt against Aliexpress. Our objective is to buy a computer from each one with the same budget and then see which one performs the best. Who's gonna raise as the winner at the end of this video? Is it going to be Mediamarkt or Aliexpress? So we're heading to the nearest Mediamarkt store with a maximum budget of €500. 500 per computer. We already know that in this kind of store there are computers for any kind of wallet, but for me the most interesting price target is the mid to low end, because if we put a lot of money on it, it's obvious that we're going to have a nice performing machine, but having a low budget is where the part picking is really important. At the end, we've got a decent computer for the price we paid, and I'll reveal the components later. Now it's time to go for the next one. And now, we're not going to China. This computer is going to be more of a challenge. We'll access the Aliexpress website and try to do the best part picking possible with our budget in mind, trying to get the best price-performance relation in each component. That's why choosing is very important. In fact, I think to this date, I've tried almost all kinds of components from this Chinese store, so I have some experience with them. I already have everything here with me, and as I've said before, we're going to reveal components later on. Something really important is that I have a surprise at the end of this video that's going to have a big impact after this comparison. For the first test, we have both computers built and running Cyberpunk 2077 at the same preset, and we want to see if they look different for someone who's not related to gaming, to see if that person has the capacity to say if they're completely different computers or if they look exactly the same. Okay, take this. Synchronized.
Venga, ven. Tiene dos ordenadores.
You've got two computers doing exactly the same. The challenge for you is to see if there is any difference between them and to tell me if you think or if you see that one is better than the other. Let's see if you can see something. Something really important that I haven't said is that not only that, this computer allows us to buy it and be playing the same day, since it comes built in with Windows and we only have to download whatever game we desire. But with the Aliexpress computer we have a lot of inconveniences. We are set on our own for the part picking process, but then whenever we decide on what to buy, it can take between 2 to 4 weeks, without mentioning that we will be the responsible to build the computer and install Windows. Now, with both side by side, we can take a look at their physical differences. To clarify something, the Mediamarkt computer is this one, built and prepared from HP representing the Victus series models. They take the V letter from that name and use it in the front with this infinite mirror effect. This computer has no window to see what's inside, but it's important to mention that the metal grey color with its borderless design and the reduced size end up creating a nice looking computer that could fit everywhere. Whereas with the Aliexpress computer it's a more conventional looking computer, being a full ATX tower with a front mesh panel in front of 3 RGB fans and an easy to open side window with tempered glass. It's important to mention that the one from Mediamarkt could fit everywhere, whereas the Aliexpress computer, as we all know, is not something that we could fit in a professional office. But as we know, if we do the part picking process, it's easier to choose a better case for each scenario, and with the Mediamarkt computer it is what it is, there's no other choice. Let's see now if this battle has any sense, or if they are two completely different systems, connecting them to similar monitors, where you can see that we have the Mediamarkt computer at the left and the Aliexpress one at the right. Now we will be focusing purely on performance, as I said before. We will take a look at the components later because we are comparing a product with the same price from different stores, not the components individually. Then we will value technical specs of each one to see what we got for the same price. In Adobe Premiere Pro, a common part of the workflow of any video editor is to create proxies, which consists of creating a copy of the actual files in a lower resolution to allow for better speeds, giving the computer better files to work with, to later export the video with the full resolution files. It comes really handy if you don't want to be waiting every time you press in a different section of the timeline. It is a common task even for people with expensive computers to preserve a good playback speeds while they are editing. Then for this proxy creation, the Mediamarkt computer has been slower than the one from Aliexpress. And I'll drop a hint here, the system from Aliexpress has a CPU from Intel, which allows us to enable the internal GPU and have even faster rendering times thanks to the Intel QuickSync technology. This result is not the same in Cinebench R23, where the Mediamarkt computer has the lead either in multi or single core performance, and what Cinebench does pretty good is to evaluate the CPU performance on its own, so now we know that it has a better CPU package, but the rest of the computer is not in pair with it, and it's creating a worse computer overall, lacking some performance as we see on Blender, where the difference between them is day and night, because the Mediamarkt computer isn't even able to render one frame since it has not enough RAM capacity to store the data. The 8GB aren't enough as we see. They are quite a limiting factor, so now we don't know if the rendering times from the other computer are good or bad. We simply know that one of them is able to achieve the result and the other one is not. So in front of this scenario, there's only one that allows us to work. Now with something a lot of you may be waiting for. Let's see the gaming performance starting with an easy test and making it more difficult over time. We are in the same scenario with the same champion with a controlled environment, both systems locked at 60 FPS. So quickly we can unlock them to see the real performance, so we can see 200 FPS in one side and an awesome almost 500 FPS in the other side. In both of them the GPU is working at its limits, but for the Aliexpress computer the CPU is starting to be a bottleneck since it's receiving too many frames per second to be able to work properly. That's why we see a 97% usage on this side. So with the Mediamarkt computer obviously we got a great competitive experience at almost 200 FPS in this low preset, which could be good if we didn't see that for the same price we're having double the frame rate in the other one. And that's the clear difference here, one is twice as fast as the other. And now to squeeze all the performance from every component, we have Cyberpunk 2077. A difference before even starting is that in the Aliexpress computer we already have more preset options that are not available for the other. So we can see in one side we have the usual options and for the other we can play with ray tracing enabled. So you may start having an idea of the GPU of each system. So now in order to compare the performance, we will set the medium preset and let the benchmark do the job for us. Without looking at the fact that one launched faster than the other, we can see double the frame rate in the Aliexpress computer. This performance gap is not only related to the graphics card. Instead, we can see that the left system is maxing up the memory RAM capacity, and that is also responsible in some way of reducing the performance, because we can see that the other system is using 10 GB of RAM in the same benchmark. Then in regards to performance, we can now say that the Aliexpress system is almost always twice as fast, with the exception of Cinebench R23, and that is why it is really important to have proper combination of components, not only having the best CPU for the money. After all these benchmarks, we can now see what components are they hiding inside for the money we paid. Now, without mentioning again that at the end of the video we have a little surprise, but let's head back to the matter. What makes this computer so different at the same price point? In the Mediamarkt side we have a Ryzen 5600G with the 4GB GTX 1650, and for the Aliexpress computer we have an Intel i7 11600H, which is a bit strange. It is a laptop CPU soldered to a usual motherboard and with a price that you simply can't compete, and all this with a popular 8GB version of the RTX 2060 Super, which is one of the best performance per price GPU we have in the market. A bit old, but a nice pick for sure if we take in account that I've paid only 150 euros for it. And now it's clear that the Aliexpress computer has been selected properly to take the maximum performance for what we paid. Not only about the performance, regarding the memory capacity in every aspect we have also twice as much of it. But let's be honest, buying memory directly from Aliexpress is not something I would recommend because the price in local stores is the same. So for this pick, if you want to mimic this computer, just buy RAM and the SSD from local stores or from the recommendations I will drop down below. Also regarding the CPU, I've seen some kits of the Intel 11400 with a motherboard for around 180 euros. So the 150 for the Ryzen kit is not competitive enough anymore. Only the mini ITX kit is still a good choice since ITX motherboards have become really expensive. It is not only a matter of the names of the component list, it's really important to check the type of components that we have, because picking it from Aliexpress, it's easier to check and choose, for example, a GPU with 2 or more fans, or simply a better CPU fan. But in regards to the Mediamarkt computer, we're buying it without even having a look at what's inside. Now we only have to take the side panel off to see where are they cutting costs here with this computer. To start with something, we don't even have the stock CPU fan from AMD. This one is surely cheaper, but I have to say that during the tests I ran, I haven't had any problem regarding temperatures. Taking a quick look, we can see a tiny GPU, an ITX model of the 1650. It is the one fan model, but being the model it is, there's no problems since it has a low TDP and it's not generating any heat. It may be simply a bit noisy sometimes, but nothing out of the average sounds from a computer. We could also place a better GPU with a 1 8-pin connection that we have available, and we might be able to install a longer GPU getting rid of the metal bracket. But the limiting factor here is the PCU, which is an HP 80 Plus Gold with only 350 watts of power. I give them credit at least for using an NVMe for the storage memory, and the main problem has been the RAM capacity, where we only have one stick of 8GB, but at least here we could buy one for a cheap price and improve the system. In regards of the Aliexpress computer, we have to take risks, and they are not for everyone. With the Mediamarkt system we can take advantage of a customer support service, and most important about the warranty, the Aliexpress computer will come with no warranty, and the stores here in Europe have at least 2 years. Here everyone has to make a choice and decide if they want to invest all the money on trying to have a better performance, or buy with a bit more of caution and pay for a customer service that will attend us if there's a need for it. I really prefer to take risks, mostly because if I have a low budget I prefer to maximize the performance I will get, and if I have any problem, I will deal with it. At the end of this price, yes, we can call that the Mediamarkt computer is a gaming computer, but taking a closer look, they are selling us a GPU from 2019, and this graphics card was especially known for how bad it was at its own launch. It was even worse than the older brother, sister, whatever, GTX 1060, and the RTX 2060 Super that we used in the Aliexpress computer is at the other extreme. At its release, it surpassed a lot of expectation and gives a lot of the cost it has. It's one of the best price performance GPUs released because remember, I paid only 150 euros for this one. That added to the fact that we're buying a computer in 2024 that only has 8GB of RAM, that is a limiting factor that someone without knowledge could fall into. With this, we're setting this computer for an early death when we try any AAA games on it. So this system should come with a minimum of 16GB of RAM, even if it makes it more expensive. I like to buy in Aliexpress whenever the cost of the risky component is at least half of the price of it brand new in any store inside the country. Then if it's not still obvious which one is better, because remember that we still have a surprise to release, but as always, here it depends on each one individually. You may have a personal situation that I have not. Let's say for example if someone is looking to buy it for their son, daughter, the best option if they don't have any knowledge about computers is to go to a local place. But if you're someone inside this world that enjoys building computers and testing components, Aliexpress may be the better place for you. Knowing all the risks involved, where do you want to put your money in? Performance or performance plus a service that will take a cut of your performance? Which one would you prefer? Let me know in the comments down below. And as I've said, I have a surprise, or I could also say bad news for both of the systems that we compared here. This ugly computer, yes, ugly, I built it for 150 euros total cost, a combination between components from the second-hand market, Aliexpress, and even some brand new, with an Intel Xeon, the 8GB version of the AMD RX 1580, and even 16GB of RAM capacity. This one would be the better option for those looking to build and test some components from China, with an excellent relation of performance per price for only 150 euros. Remember, this AMD RX 1580 has the same performance that the 1650 from Nvidia, so I'll leave you the video where I built this computer here around, with also the same system of 500 euros that we built for this comparison. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I've done. Excuse my English since I'm starting to learn how to pronounce everything. I just read English all my life but never spoken, and I hope to see you soon.